Sarvabhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshye punastani kalpadau visrujamyaham prakritim swama vastabhya visrujami punah punah bhutagrama gagramam imam kritsnam avasham prakritirvashat. 7th and 8th. See these uh, in these verses, Krishna is continuing from the last this thing where he is trying to explain his own glory. Okay, his own glory. In a tarper main solvalla. So that is what he is doing right now. So, I mean, and why is that important? Because he has explained to him all the philosophies. Krishna has explained all philosophies to Arjuna. But if devotion doesn't set in the heart, philosophy, how much ever philosophy we know, would have learned, it won't mean much other than academic knowledge. All philosophies only through, of course, through sadhana, you try to assimilate it. But if devotion is not there, Shraddha and Bhakti, if this is not there, then it will not enrich you, or it will not be completely absorbed. Right? So, and when does devotion occur? We discussed this in the last few sessions. Devotion occurs when the first thing for devotion is that you know that the object of devotion is much greater than you in some form, either in terms of guna or rupa, right? Either in the form or in qualities, it is much greater than you, and than anything probably you know. So then there is a certain, either there will be fear or devotion. These are the two emotions that you can, or these are two, one is, so it may not be devotion. So the first emotion that may come out is either fear or amazement, wonderment, right? When does devotion come? When the qualities that you see or hear is something that you adore. Okay. See, when you look at Mount Kailash as a mountain, when we went for a yatra, there are a few hikers who came along. Some people who are hiking, so they had also come for Mount Kailash. And of course, you cannot hike Mount Kailash, but they came with us. And then, because there are different in Nepal, what happens is different groups are brought together and then they take them. So you go as a group, and then they will mix a few other people to make a certain size of the group, and then they take them along. So in that group, we had a few people who had come from Germany. Now for them, Mount Kailash was not, it was an inspiration, a mountain of inspiration. And there are many mountains there because the Himalayan ranges. So they were in wonderment. They had the sense of awe. And when we were doing some of these acclimatizations at each place, they would just run up, run down some of these hills fairly easily, because in Europe, there are many such, you've got the Alps. So a lot of people scale some of those mountains and all. So these are people who do that, and then they come here and they're really in wonderment of the kind of Himalayan ranges that you see, and they do that. Now, is there devotion there? They may not have devotion in that way because there is nothing to relate to. It's a mountain. It's a beautiful thing. It's like, wow, it's amazing. It's wonderful. But when does devotion come? When you see Mount Kailash as Shiva, as Ishvara, as Bhagavan, as the form of, as the linga of Sadashiva himself. So when you see this as a symbol of that, and there is this association, so Mount Kailash is associated with Shiva, and you adore the qualities that you've heard of Shiva. Nishkalankaya, Nirupaya, Nishprapanchaya. It goes on like that. There are sagunas and nirgunas that are described about Shiva. So when you look at that and you think of some of these, and then you want to associate with that, and then devotion comes, right? So Rupa and Guna, these are required. Now Rupa he will bring later. Krishna will bring the Rupa later. The Vishwarupa Darshanam he'll give later. But first he is singing his own glories. There's a term in English, blowing his own trumpet. So Krishna is right now blowing his own trumpet. Why is he doing that? So that these gunas are something that Krishna may adore or associate with or admire, and then there is devotion that will rise in the heart. So he is continuing to do that. Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam. So he's saying that the world is created from me again and again, and it comes from me, it goes from me. All of the beings. So we spoke about the Kalpa, Brahma's cycle of day and night, etc. Right? So he says these beings come out of me and they dissolve back in me. Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mam ikam. It merges back into me. Kalpakshaye, at the end of a kalpa, punah punaha. So again and again it goes it goes back again and again and gets created, and it is in accordance with the forces of nature, so which means prakriti vashat. So I establish, or there is a dharma. Did I? Maybe it is a different satsang. I was explaining about what is rita. Ritam vachmi, satyam vachmi, ritam vachmi. This is, we would have heard this in Ganesha Atharva Shirsha.
Ganesha Atharva.
Correct. So in Ganapati Atharva Shirsha. Now that is ritam. Ritam is the way, order of things. The order of things is ritam, the cosmic order. In Taoism, it's called the Tao, Tao, the flow. This is the way things are. There is creation, there is sustenance, there is destruction, there is this happens, this, the planets move, this thing happens. All of that is ritam. There are seasons, there are stars that form, there are galaxies that collapse, there are the nebulae that are formed. All of these are happening, right, across at a cosmic scale, and then it happens at a quantum scale also. Quantum is subatomic particle scale. At that scale also these things happen. There is a way of things that it happens. There is a nature, that there is natural forces that govern this. This is prakriti. This is ritam. So he says, I set this nature of forces in nature, I set them on. And then that takes care of this whole thing. Repeatedly, creation, sustenance, destruction, and various activities keep happening. And then, nacha mam tani karmani nibadhnanti dhananjaya. I do not attach myself to any of these actions. If you call them as an action, if creation is an action, if sustenance is an action, if destruction is an action, none of these actions bind me. Udasinavat. Excuse me. Asinam. I am situated as a neutral party, witness, sakshi. Teshu karmasu. In those actions, all those actions may be powered by my power. I would have powered them. It is my ritam. I have established this ritam. I have established this process in place. I have established this whole governance model. I have established how creation should happen, the process of creation. I have established the whole governance model, how the whole universe should be governed. I have established the process of destruction, how everything should be destroyed and dissolved back. And what happens during the time after the, what they say as pralaya, or complete annihilation of everything, there is a period of silence. That also, that period of silence and the period of non-creation after destruction, before creation, that is a silence. Akara, Ukara, Makara. Then there is a Shanti. There is a silence. And then comes Akara. Om. Om. right? So that silence, that is also, there is a certain structure to it. There is a pattern to it. There is a meaning to it. So all of this, I've set it in motion. All of this is kind of, I've laid out the laws, the way they work. But none of that attach me. None of that bind me to it. Like we've discussed, the role of the sun. It is completely responsible for everything that grows on earth. But it's absolutely unattached. If the earth goes flinging into the galaxy, the sun wouldn't care. It's not bound. So the actions that I do, or the actions that occur, rather than saying I do, the actions that occur, it doesn't bind me. I am completely isolated and I am just a sakshi. मयाध्यक्षेण प्रकृतिः सूयते सचराचरं हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगति जगत् विपरिवर्तते. Saying it is based on my direction, this whole creation of sacharacharam, chara achara, all that is moving and all that is unmoving, is it gets created. And that is the reason why everything goes through the cycle of creation, maintenance, and sustenance, maintenance and destruction. Creation, sustenance, and destruction. All of this animate and inanimate goes through in a cyclical manner. And this is happening based on my direction. When he says Maya Adhyakshena, Maya Adhyakshena means by my guidance or under my supervision or under my direction, this happens. Means what? It is a law that I've set in place and it's working. Right? It's like, for example, I've turned on a machine, motor start panniyachu. The motor has been started and that's it. It's happening. It will follow the laws of nature. The laws of nature have been established. It will just follow that. It will continue to keep moving till, of course, it comes a point where it is run out of power, whatever it will. So for a period of time, it will sustain and then it will die off. Right? Again, when there is power that has been supplied, it will again start moving. This is what is happening over and over again. Then avajananti mam mudhaha manushim tanumashritam param bhavamajanantah mama bhuta maheshwaram. Now, this is what I've explained so far as my cosmic form. All of these things that happen. So Bhagavan, here Krishna has assumed the form of the Lord of the universe. Okay.
Tanumashriyam போட்டுட்டா tanumashritham போட்டுட்டு
tanuhuna இது body.
acha தீர்க்க இல்லையே தானு இல்லையே
tanum ashritam. This form, you take refuge in this form, or you take this form. So what is happening? Krishna has, he's saying, see, this conversation between Arjuna and Krishna is happening at a time when, remember, Arjuna has already also gone to Indraloka. If you know the Mahabharata, he's gone to Indraloka, Swargaloka, he's gone there, he spent time with Apsaras learning music, dance, which is what he uses later as Brihannala
in the disguising.
Brihannala. As Brihannala, he uses all that arts and whatever he has learned, but he also goes there to receive a lot of Astra Vidya and Shastra Vidya, right? So this, remember, there's a time when he's able to do that. He's able to transcend planes of existence and go. We don't know if he uses the same body to go into the other lokas to learn these things and all. We don't know. But that is what the Mahabharata says, right? So now you're talking to this person, right? If the conversation was with us, then we haven't experienced any of this, right? We have not experienced supernatural things on a regular basis. See, the difference with what is the difference between Shastra Vidya and Astra Vidya? Shastra Vidya is use of weapons. Astra Vidya is using Mantra Shastra and creating weapons from Mantra Shastra, mantra, this thing. Through mantras, you create weapons and you employ them. That's Astra Vidya. Shastra Vidya is essentially with the weapons. You got a sword, you got a bow, you got an arrow, you got a shield, you got this, that, and the other, right? Those are all material weapons. But Astra Vidya is where you learn these mantras and use a mantra to deliver weapons, different kinds of weapons. Agni Astra, Vayu Astra, Pashupatastra. Right? These are astras because they are not physical. It's not like a physical spear. They will invoke the power through mantra. They will invoke the power, and then that particular form will be taken by or whatever. That astra will come in that form or whatever, but that astra can be employed on somebody, and that astra can be when you deliver that astra, you can or you can actually invoke the astra in a way that it is an intelligent guided missile. That's how it is. So we are talking about a time of this kind when some of these things were not supernatural. They had access to all of this information, this data, this kind of use of the sciences. So a lot of things that today we think are supernatural, those things were available to them. So you're talking now of that kind of a time where Krishna is coming up and standing and talking like the Lord of the universe. So as Lord of the universe, he's saying that I am all of this, I am all of this. And so for Arjuna, these are all what is it may be very difficult because Arjuna would have seen a lot of supernatural things that would have occurred, right? See, today, if somebody is able to do something like this and provide you some miraculous thing, immediately we can fall at his feet and think he's God. Because it's not something that you witness on a regular basis. But at that time, it was not like that. A lot of these things, there are access to yakshas and gandharvas and kinnaras and so many other forms of beings. So to recognize somebody as the creator himself, the Lord of the universe, in a way, what has Krishna really done to show that? To say that I am, see, the Vishwarupa Darshan comes only later to emphasize, yes, all that I've said so far, now you see, and then you realize. Because this doubt will be there, right? See, this shloka, in this verse, that is what he's saying. See, if somebody comes down today and says, I am, imagine yourself in Arjuna's position, and you've been playing with this friend who's your Attai's son, right? No, sorry. Kunti's brother was Vasudeva, right? So Mama's son. Okay.
Krishna, அத்தையோட பிள்ளை
Arjuna.
correct.
So Vasudeva was Mama for Arjuna. Vasudeva.
கிருஷ்ணரோட அத்தை குந்தி.
Yeah. So he's the Mama's son. So you're looking at your Mama's son and suddenly he's talking all of this. Your Mama's son has always been wise. Suddenly he's talking all sorts of things as though he is the creator of the universe. Imagine, it's very difficult, right, to acknowledge this. We take it so easily because we have heard of this so many thousands of times in our lifetime. We just take it for granted, but think it is quite hard. So he says, Krishna says, when I take this form, many mudaha don't recognize me, which means dim-witted. When you say mudaha, it's dim-witted, but it's not you shouldn't take it as a derogatory term. It just means that our intellects are not as refined and sharp to be able to perceive the truth. And which is our situation also today, in today's day and age, that is how we are. So when Bhagavan comes down, like I was having a discussion with somebody the other day, they say, I want to see Bhagavan in this form. I want to see Bhagavan in this form. I keep praying throughout my life. Now it's a great thing. I want to see Bhagavan in form. I want to see Bhagavan in form. We keep praying. So you have a certain form in mind. But the thing is that Bhagavan may turn up in some other form and you would have missed it completely. That is possible. Right? Who's to say? I was narrating the story to someone, Tulsidas story. A very beautiful story and about Rama. Oh, by the way, Buddha Purnima today. Happy Buddha Purnima. So, the story of Tulsidas, where Tulsidas is doing is writing his Ramcharitmanas and he's chanting Ramanama and he's doing his pravachanam. Where is he doing? At Kashi. There is a Tulsi Ghat in Kashi. Those who had come to Kashi would have seen the Tulsi Ghat, the beautiful Tulsi Ghat, where he wrote Ramcharitmanas and is also known to have written the Hanuman Chalisa there. Now, when he was doing this, he wanted to see Rama. So there is one episode where he does tarpanam to a tree, but the tree is a pishacha or some unsatisfied atma in the form of the tree. And when he is doing tarpanam or he is doing his argyam every day, the spirit gets released. It gets liberated. And because it gets liberated, because of the argyam, he doesn't know that there is a spirit of the tree. He is just doing his argyam every day. That's part of his sandhyavandanam. But then because of the punya karma that he's doing, the spirit gets the punya karma and it's released from that form so that it goes to the next stage of its whatever journey. But before going, it wants to thank Tulsidasa. So suddenly one day when that bond or that pishacha bond with that form of the tree is released, then while going, it just turns around and says, I want to thank you, and so on and so forth. So it has that conversation with Tulsidas. And he is like, who is this talking to me? And he says, no, I am the spirit of the tree. I was stuck here and I had to take this form. Now because of your argya, because of your punya karma, I am released. But I'd like to give you a boon. What would you want? Tulsidasa says, what could I want? I mean, all I want is only Rama. All I want is to see my Ishta, my Prabhu Sri Ram. Then he says, no, that I may not be able to do. But what I could do is point you to a person who can take you to Sri Ram. So then he says, who's that? And then he says, Hanumanji. So then he says, how can I find Hanumanji? Tulsidas asks. Then he says, actually, whenever you're doing pravachanam, every day, Hanumanji comes to your pravachanam and he listens. He comes and listens to your discourse. And he's like, oh my God, I don't know. Yeah, wherever there is Ramanama being chanted, wherever there is Ramayana Parayanam happening, wherever Rama Sankirtanam is happening, Hanumanji is present. And this is a promise that Hanumanji is given. So he is present. So then he says, how do I recognize him? Tulsidas asks him. Then he says, in your discourse, find out there is one person who will come repeatedly. He will come at the start, before the start, and he'll leave. He'll be the last person to leave. So he'll be the first person to come and he'll be the last to leave. Find out that person. So and then the Pishacha gets released and moves on. And then Tulsidasa is observing now every day. And then after a few days, he sees one pattern. He says one person at a far distance. When he comes, that person is already there, and everybody surrounds Tulsidasa for the discourse. And at the end of the discourse, and then everybody disperses, and then that person is the last person to go. Now he notices that every day, and then on a certain day, he thinks that now I figured out, I see the pattern, he must be Hanumanji. So let me go run and catch hold of him. But then few days go by, because by the time the crowd clears and he runs to meet him, he goes away. And then one day somehow he catches hold of him And then he sees he's in the form of a leper, right? So he doesn't know he's Hanumanji, but he sees a leper and he remembers what the Pishacha told, that then he's concluding that that must be Hanuman. And then when Tulsidas goes near that leper, he says, "Stay away from me. You're not supposed to come close to me. I am a leper and you're not supposed to come close to me." Right? Which is why I'm keeping myself so at a distance. So don't bother me. So then he says, "No, no, no. I know you're Hanumanji." Who told you I am Hanumanji? So he tries to go away. But then he pleads, he holds him and all that. So Kala pidichu ellam panni. Then he gives in, Hanumanji gives in, comes into his form. And then he says, "Okay, tell me what you want." He says, "I want Lord Rama. I want to have darshan of Lord Rama." Then he tells him, "Okay, go back, go to." So the conversation ensues, and then Hanumanji tells him on a certain day, go to Chitrakuta. Go to Chitrakuta and you go to this particular place, a tree, wait there. Rama will, Prabhu Sri Ram will come and give you his blessing and his darshan. And then he's waiting there. And then, so 2 or 3 occasions, what happens is Rama actually comes, but he comes in a completely different form. One day he comes as a small boy who's playing around. He's just hanging around there and he comes and disturbs Tulsidas. And he says, "Go away, go away. I'm waiting for my Prabhu Shri Ram." So he sends the boy out. And he's waiting, and then a few days pass by like that, and then he goes back to Hanumanji and asks, "What is this?" He's saying, "You didn't realize that that little boy who came and he was pestering you, that was him." I was like, "Oh my God." And then he goes
இது
again there.
அதே அது அது எப்படின்னா வந்து ஒரு நதிக்கரையில குளிச்சுட்டு வரும்போது 2 பசங்க உட்காந்துட்டு நெத்திட்டு விடுன்னு சொல்லுவா. சோ அவர் ஸ்ரீசரண் அவர் இட்டு விடும்போது அவர் கண்ணு பார்க்கும்போது தெரியுது அதுக்குள்ள மேலேந்து ஒரு குருவி ஒண்ணு சொல்லும். கீழே உட்கார்ந்துருக்கிறது பெருமாள் ராமர் தான் வந்திருக்கிறதுங்கிறது ஒரு குருவி என்னமோ பேர்ட் என்னமோ சொல்லும் அவருக்கு.
Correct, correct,
இம்மிடியட்டா
correct.
அந்த கண்ணை பார்த்த உடனே he would realize இதுக்கு நெத்திட்டோட சொல்லும் அந்த பசங்க குளிச்சுட்டு வந்து இருந்து சில ஸ்ரீசரண் இட்டு விடுன்னு சொல்லும். அது மாதிரி ஒரு அப்படி
Yeah, Mama, you're
சொல்லும்.
right, you're right. Then a bird or some this thing will come, or
Something
Hanumanji. So
அந்த
he will tell
பேசும்.
Hanumanji, when Tulsida will tell Hanumanji that you need to help me, and then bird will be there and it will tell in his ear that that is Rama. But that will happen after several iterations, which means several failures, not recognizing. So now what has happened to Tulsidas? See, first he didn't recognize Hanumanji. Hanumanji has been coming to his discourse every day. So this Pishacha had to tell him. Second, Rama, a few times he went and although he was told that Rama will come, he missed seeing him, whatever form he came. Now, what is this story about is, of course, Tulsidas's bhakti and all of that eventually made him see. But the point is that we need to have those eyes to see. We need to have that perseverance to see. And we need to have that faith that, yes, I will be able to see. Or the point is, like what just Amma mentioned, to be able to see that that form that I'm seeing right now in front of me is the form of Rama. Understand? Because the way we see Rama is always in calendar photos or pictures, or Jai Shri Ram walking like this with a bow and arrow all the time, right? Walking with bow and arrow. I mean, see, suppose Rama comes without a bow and arrow, you will not recognize him, right? So, in the kiridamla vechinde, crown alla vechinde. I mean, there's a movie, oh my God, I don't know how many of you've seen it. There's an interesting movie, oh my God, by Paresh Rawal. Right? Krishna comes in as Akshay Kumar is acting as Krishna, t-shirt and jeans and pant and riding a motorcycle. And he says, when I come in a personal form, in that individual form, people will not be able to recognize this. They do not know that this form of mine is me. It's a form that I've taken. We wouldn't know. And why wouldn't we know is because we are wanting to see it but we are so stuck with the form. And also sometimes what happens is, and see, whatever you call this, God, nature, the Paramatma, that consciousness, cosmic consciousness, if it's got to condense itself in form for you, um, that must transform us. There's an interesting way to say this. That form must transform. Right? If it just becomes like any other form, suppose you had the visitation of the Lord. Okay. Now, if it doesn't transform you, next day the person goes to the ration kadai and adhe puli uppuku chanda pottun irukkaanu vechukonga, then God will think, why did I even come and take so much effort to condense myself and come into this form for this bhakta? So the bhakta must have that level of maturity that either that form comes as a blessing or as a reward for the way the bhakta has been, or at least in a way that it comes and then completely transforms this individual. That ability to receive that grace, we must develop that much amount of receptivity that we don't have a choice, or rather the cosmic being doesn't have a choice but to condense themselves or condense himself, herself. அந்த ரூபத்துல வரத்துக்கு அது என்ன சொல்லுவா, வற்புறுத்துறோம்னு சொல்லுவாள்ல. So it is through our intense devotion we just bring them in, condense into the form. Now sometimes people may have visions while they're sleeping or in their meditation, or while they're awake suddenly they may see a glimpse of something. These things may happen. But if we want to have glimpses like how Arjuna is having, we have to become like Arjuna, right? That is something which is very important to recognize. So he's saying, avajananti mam mudhaha manushim tanum ashritam param bhavam ajanantah mama bhuta maheshwaram, that I am that supreme Lord. Not everybody knows, not everybody realizes or recognizes. Moghasha mogha karmana mogha karmana mogha karmana mogha jnana vichetasah rakshasim asurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shritaha. So what happens is, then in this delusion, people go hunting here and there. They're looking for small gains. Why? Because they say that, okay, maybe Bhagavan wouldn't come down in form. That's one way of looking at it. Say the I don't believe that God can come down in form. And then you take on to other smaller forces that enable your life. That makes your life more comfortable. You go towards that. You seek smaller energies, smaller forces that gives you comforts. It helps you clear your aspirations, your desires, fulfills your desires. So we tend to go in that direction. Either mentally or physically, we move in a direction where, one, I say that, it's this, what we call as Lord of the Universe, the Creator. Why would he come to me? Right? That's one way of seeing it. And I can completely discard or completely disregard the fact that it's possible for that to come. I disregard that. And the other side, because I have aspirations, I have desires, I want to live a life, I want comforts, luxuries, all of that. I want name, fame, acknowledgement, recognition. Then I go behind these smaller energies, smaller forms, that then we go looking for these, then we go looking for Ninga Cholongole, Ninga Cholongole, Ninga Cholongole. So you go to 100 different people asking, you tell me, this is my Jadagam. 15 years, you will take this Jadagam, go around to 100 people and we'll ask. Then 16th year, you will realize, ayyo, Jadagame tappa irundhudu appadinu. Idhula Shani inda kattathula illa appadinu ayyo. I have to start all over again. So now when you go through this, because why there is anxiety, why you want this to happen, that to happen, you want all of these things to happen. So he's saying this is where mudaha, reference to mudaha is like this, where you've got aspirations, but you don't know where to look for it. Right? There's this joke in school. I remember listening to this joke. Somebody is frantically searching for something, and a friend comes around and says, "But what are you looking for?" He said, "No, I dropped a ring. I'm looking for it." He said, "Oh, okay, you dropped it here?" He says, "No, no, no, I dropped it there." He said, "Why are you looking for it?" "But it's dark there. No, there is light here, so I'm looking for it here." It's a stupid joke, but that is it goes to show just because it's convenient, we are looking for it elsewhere. Right? எங்க விட்டோமோ அங்கதானே தேடணும். You got to look for this where we've lost it. So, which is why where we've lost it, we have to go inwards. We have to turn inwards and figure out where is this all coming from? What is this? And introspection must happen. Extrospection is happening. We go outside and we try to look for everything on the outside. So this is what he's saying. They put all these efforts, but they're in vain. Moghasha, mogha karmanaha, mogha jnana vichetasaha. So you put all of these efforts, you put your knowledge, you put your work, you put your effort, all of this in vain. Why? Because you're going in a random direction. You're going in a random direction. So basically what we've covered today is around how Krishna is telling Arjuna that this is my glorious form, but then I'm also available as a personal form. But then for us to recognize, see, even for us now, what do we do with these verses? How does it really help me? Right? I may have thought about Krishna my whole life. I may have thought about Ambal my whole life. She has not given me a single darshan my whole life. He's never come to me in the way all Kalidasa is talking about Shamala Dandakam. Somebody is talking about Muka Panchashati, 500 shlokas he created. Mukan created 500 shlokas. Why am I not getting even a glimpse? And then what happens is a lot of times when we've done with so much of intensity and all of that in our younger years, when you're older, there is fatigue. You say, I've done all of this in my younger years, and when I'm older now, and what's happened? There's nothing really happening. So it's important to have this is not something like we know when we will achieve an end. We would never know. You would never know when you will achieve an end. And a lot of times for me, it's important we need to recognize this is not to look for form. This is my personal way. If he appears in form, so two things you have to pray. Pray is that let me not look for form. One, if you do appear in form, guide me to recognize you in that form. Right? And then the third thing is in another which one was this we were looking at? Was it Venkateshwara Suprabhatam or which one? You're saying in whatever direction, in whatever you see, you learn to see that. You learn to see the divine hand. See, have we ever sat down and see a flower bloom? Or just a sapling coming out? Or a little bird pecking and eating food or eating grain? We are worried it will come and put droppings in our balcony. But have we sat and watched it eat a grain? Right? Have we seen a worm crawling? Of course, not on our bed, but if it's crawling in the garden, it's okay. When we sat down and looked at the worm, it's crawling. These are beauties in nature. There is a divine hand that is there. Now, what happens is when you start practicing, this is sadhana, we start practicing trying to see that in every little thing in this way, then slowly this actually it's kind of an imposed desire that I want to see Bhagavan in form. It is actually an imposed desire in a way. Because we listen to so many people have seen, so many people have done this, that, and the other, we impose that upon us, and then we also try to aspire for that. And what happens is it causes fatigue over time. That I have not been able to see, I have not been able to get this, get that. My point is, if you've allowed yourself, if your sadhana or your introspection or whatever you do is allowed to see these small beauties in life, I'd say there is realization happening within. That Bhagavan is flowering from inside. That is happening from inside. And when that happens, then there is joy that will develop. Then it's all right. Right? This is one, I've said this many times, where Ramana Maharshi tells Papaji, Harilal Punja, Harilal Punja is so happy saying, oh, I see Krishna dancing, I see Krishna doing this, but Krishna goes away and I'm waiting for him when he'll come. And again, when he comes, it is so joyful, I enjoy. So he goes and asks Ramana Maharshi, how do I make this happen? So then Ramana says, you're looking in the wrong direction. This Krishna is coming and going. Why are you running behind that Krishna who's coming and going? Stay in that awareness that is observing this Krishna coming and going. There is something within you that is observing this Krishna coming and Krishna going. Can you stay in that? So it is beautiful to have form, because as I said again, when at the start of the satsang, we said it invokes devotion. We need the form to invoke devotion. Avlo beautiful irukare, avlo alaga irukare, avlo elimaya irukale, avlo, all of that we require. We listen to songs, Sankirtanam, Gita Govinda, you listen to Gita Govinda, there's so much beauty. But we shouldn't get stuck. We should weep. If we weep like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that nothing else matters. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, 3 minutes, and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said this, I think in the complete works of Vivekananda or Gospel of Ramakrishna. He says 3 minutes, if you can yearn for God like you gasp for breath. If you put our head underwater and you gasp for breath, maybe some people can hold for 45, 50, 60 seconds or whatever, a minute max. But if you can gasp for, like you're gasping for breath, you can gasp for Bhagavan for 3 minutes. He says, Atma Sakshatkaram is Nityam, certain. He's telling this. Atma Sakshatkaram is certain for you. This is the Vachana of, it is a Mahavakya. But think, 3 minutes will we be able to be like that? Like I'm going to die now. This is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was. And then when we are in that, then it wouldn't matter in what form he comes. See, look at that play of things, right? So that's the beauty. So he says, I am in this personal form also, but you will not know which form. May be difficult for you to know. So we also seek his mercy and grace to say that, give me a glimpse. When I see somebody coming, helping me, and suddenly vanishing, ayyo, was that Bhagavan? Many times you would have experienced these things. Miraculous, yaro engyo didirne. Somebody will come, he'll come, and by the time you stabilize yourself, the person would have gone. You would have done the help that you had to do. But then later we'll think, ayyo, Bhagavan, you helped me. Many such things that we all experience. So we hold on to that. That's the personal presence that he gives us a glimpse. Through Shraddha, through our Shraddha, we recognize it also. And through Shraddha, we also say that I'm all right. I am not going to give up hope. See, when I said Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was crying, he didn't cry because after some time he'll give up hope. It's not like, ஐயோ அழுது அழுது டயர்ட் ஆயிட்டேன்பா அப்படின்னு இல்லை. He will say, I will be born again and again because I love to cry for the Lord. Understand? So that crying comes from a very different place. It's not that I am tired of crying for you. 30 வருஷம் 40 வருஷம். And then what? What will you do? Then you go into a different depressive mood, which is not the right way to go. So which is why we develop this eye to see. I want to see. So we should enable and empower ourselves and take the strong sankalpa that I want to see you everywhere and everything and everywhen. Not only when I'm doing dhyana, when I'm getting up, I'm walking, I'm sitting, I'm doing what I want to see you. Sankalpa, strong sankalpa, we keep that. Then whatever form that appears, like we said, it will transform. Transformation, transforming is the form that we are looking for. That form should create some stir within. So with that, we will close the satsang today. So we did till the 12th verse. We'll continue from the 13th next week. ॐ कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि. जगदम्बिकायै इति समर्पयामि. सद्गुरुनाथायेति समर्पयामि. हरि ओं तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओं. हरि ओं.